Hello world and welcome to another episode of America You So Crazy. I am your host Colin Mill. I wasn't planning on doing another one of these episodes so soon, but it's something in my mind that I'm just thinking about a lot. I already wrote the movie. We're in production of my new film, Idiot Boyfriend. We're actually in pre-production because we're still rehearsing, but we're about to start principal photography in a week or two, which means we start shooting the actual film. But there's a line in the film that I wrote that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and this is a political. It's supposed to be a political podcast, so I feel like this is probably the perfect place I can bring this up. Now I'm not gonna act like I'm the smartest guy. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I know a lot of things. And, when it comes to politics, the most I know about politics is what I've seen in the news, what I've seen, through my life, and pretty much what I've seen on House of Cards. So that's my general knowledge of politics. As a kid, the first thing I can remember about presidents, I think the first thing, made me realize what a president was the Bill Clinton scandal with Monica. That was the first thing, and that went open the door like, oh, that's the president. I don't know why I can't. That's the first memory. Maybe they're, in school, they told us about George Washington and stuff, but to be honest, I still can't name all the presidents that came before. That's something I've, learned over the years as I studied history and watched History Channel and stuff like that. But, so, my point is, the line in the film is, the main star, the girl, she goes, it's really hard to be Christian and liberal at the same time. And, it's crazy about writing. Writing will expose yourself to yourself, and you'll be like, whoa, I didn't, it's crazy to feel that way. And that's the world we live in. I'm sure other people have felt that exact same feeling where it's like, you were raised to be Christian, you could have been raised in a religious background, but maybe this is a millennial thing, but, we're practically most of us are liberals, and the meaning of a liberal is someone whose beliefs change in time. Like you felt a way about one thing back then, and now you feel a little bit different. A prime example is look at Jimmy Kimmel, The Man Show. The Man Show is like very anti-feminist. Like it was not. It was masculinity galore. Like that was a show for dudes. And now you see Jimmy Kimmel now, the father, and you see him on the night show, the talk show. He's not that same guy anymore. That's the change with liberals. You felt one thing before, and now you feel another. And it's hard because America is a Christian country, and as me, I was born and raised here in New York, and I've been in several different religions, if you want to say that. I was a Catholic. I was raised as a Catholic for years. I think I was a Catholic for maybe 10 years. So from the day I was born, from baptism to I was at least 11, I was a Catholic. And then after that, I became a Baptist because that church was closer to my house. And I was a Baptist for maybe 2-3 years, and then after that I became a 7-day Adventist because when I went to my mother sent me to Haiti for a year, and it was a boarding school, but we didn't stay at the boarding school. We actually lived in the country of Haiti, but the school we went to was a 7-day Adventist school. It was an English school, so I became 7-day Adventist, and then from what was that, 2003? Yeah, so from 2003 all the way down to maybe 2011, I proclaimed myself to be a 7-day Adventist. Now I just put it under the umbrella term Christian, and it's hard to be a Christian and a liberal because your beliefs change. And what it is like if I wanted to be a diehard Christian, technically I would be a conservative. I'm not even sure what conservative means. I really don't. I'm gonna have to look that up. I should have looked that up before I did this podcast, but I'm not even sure but from my perspective, a conservative is a diehard Christian, and Mike Pence, I think, and that's what makes it so hard to be like. It's like, it's so people just like it's just like like all right. you study history, you can see that the Bible has been changed plenty of times. There's been like 180 books that's not in the Bible anymore. Now we just get a few. And I used to work at a bookstore, Books a Million bookstore, and there was this one section, I'm not even, what section I'm thinking about? I was about to bring up this one section, but that's not the section I was thinking of. It was, the section was it was self-help, sex, and New Age, which was pretty much spirituality. So it was sex, self-help, and spirituality. And in that section of spirituality, you had all these books about different religions, and, you had different stuff from yoga to, they had everything in there. It was weird to have. I didn't even realize at one point we was even selling the Satanic Bible. I was like, why? Like, there's a lot of stuff in here, man. There's a lot of books in here. But the section I really want to tell you about was the Bible section. The Bible section had every version of the Bible you could think of. You had the New Age, not the New Age. You had the King James Bible. You had the original version. You had this type, well, not the original one, but, they had the Barbie version, the manga anime version, the soldier version, the veteran version, the business owner version. It was just, I really wanted to look at the entrepreneur version. That one caught my eye. But, I was just like, why there's so many retellings of the Bible? Isn't it just one book? Why did it need to fit? Why did it need to be re-edited for whoever's looking at it? You know what I mean? Why do I have to give my daughter the Princess Bible to get, it's like, what's being re-edited for? And I'm looking through these texts. They're not all the same. You can see the translations are different. So, growing up, I'm a millennial. You meet people, people have, big impact on your life, and, their lifestyle might be alternative compared to your lifestyle, especially if you were brought up in a religious background. Your lifestyle might be, conservative, I guess. I gotta look up what conservative mean. But, to be a Christian, it's like, there's a conflicting emotion going on all the time, because you know what you believe in, and, you have other people like, I can't remember the name of the church, but Kevin Smith made a movie called Red State, and they were not parodying, I guess, satiring an actual church that, they walk around with signs like God hates gays, and I don't want to say that for it, but what do I call it? I'm not saying I never said it before, but let's not do that here. That's fucked up. The thing is, as a Christian, I guess what it is I don't know if it's a contradiction, because the church is supposed to be the place where they let everybody in, but the church would be like, no, we can't let everybody in because y'all still doing that foolery, and it's like, bruh, like, we all doing some kind of bullshit. At the end of the day, somebody's gonna be, I'm not everybody. So, like, people lie every day, people steal, people cheat. Like nobody, like, he who has not sinned cast the first stone. I believe I'm quoting that right. I hope I am. And like, ain't nobody holier than thou out here. Like even though I'm a Christian, right? Even though I was raised as a Catholic, I would never go to the Vatican and profess my sins to another man. I'm like, bruh, you another dude. You believe like me. God can hear my thoughts. I'm going to tell him. But everybody's belief is different. So I'm not going to sit here and judge somebody else because they sin differently than me. So I guess that's what being a liberal is. I guess. I'm not sure. Somebody's going to have to correct me on this. But I just wanted to come and start this conversation off. Like, what is it to be a liberal? What is it to be a conservative? Does that mean, like, to be conservative, does that mean you're a strict Christian? To be a liberal, did that mean you have to be, a believer of the New Age philosophy? Because, they don't go hand in hand. These things don't go hand in hand at all. But, America, you're so crazy, We have the freedom of speech, and it's a great thing. And maybe I'm just the only one confused. I don't know. But, when you work somewhere and you're able to go through every version of the Bible and then go to the sex, self-help, and spirituality section and see all the other stuff going on, I've learned about a lot of religions when I was working at that bookstore. And, hey, I guess you gotta figure that stuff out for yourself. I can't tell you what to believe in. Much love. God bless. 2 pieces of chicken grease. I'll see you guys later.